Hey everyone, I'm Tom and welcome to the channel. As a sci-fi and fantasy reader, a lot of the things we read are rather dark, or at least the things that I read. And so I was just reflecting as we get into the holiday season on some things that make me happy. And obviously I started to think about books. And so I wanted to come up with a list of books that just made me happy while I was reading them for one reason or another. And so let's go ahead, jump right in with the first book and kind of the origin of this list as we got towards December. I always reread one book every year, and it's really the only book that I reread, and that is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. This is a book that every year I associate with Christmas, which is my favorite time of the year, and it really does just bring me a lot of joy to read this. Like I said, this is the only book I reread. Since I started being a reader again in 2019, I've not reread any book except for A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I think it has a beautiful message about the season, about giving, about just trying to look for the positives in life and just everything in general. Maybe it could be a little preachy. I know this is something that I think a lot of people are familiar with, but if you haven't read this since you were a kid or you've only watched the movie, I mean, look how small, how short this is. I really do recommend that you go ahead, pick up A Christmas Carol and just read it. I normally read this on Christmas Eve and every year, and it's just always a great experience. No matter what, it just I don't know. It just brings the holiday season together for me and just brings a smile to my face every time. And sticking with the Christmas experience, if you were somebody who is like, I have read A Christmas Carol 100 times, I don't need something else, I'm going to point you towards, and this is a fun murder mystery. And I know that maybe doesn't sound like the most happy kind of book, but this is called Death of a Christmas Trees Salesman. This is by Patricia Meredith. And this is, follows a snowman named Sam Shovel, and it just kind of goes through this adventure in the North Pole. And while, yes, it's a murder mystery, it is just so over the top Christmas that I couldn't help but smile the entire time I went through it. It's fun. It's also not long. I believe there's an audiobook for it now, and just it's just a general great time. And I kind of think of some of these Christmas books together. So Death of a Christmas Tree Salesman, A Christmas Carol. There's a few other that it just brings a lot of joy to me. And so that is the Christmas kind of stuff. And now we're going to move into some things that are more of a general read that you could read whenever. And the first one is a new Apple TV series, and that is Murderbot. Specifically, All Systems Red. I think as the series goes on, it's kind of the same thing over and over again, and that repetitive nature can definitely bring down the reading experience of a whole, but that does not take away from how fun and it's a fun series because the main protagonist is kind of depressed, and I think it's a great outlet to explore some of those emotions in a productive way, but also in a way with a lot of humor and a lot of references, and just you feel so connected to this murder bot and that where their job is to murder and kill and everything, and you end up just really connecting to them, and there's this joy and humor that is laid into the book with a lot of other elements coming into it as well. I haven't actually watched the TV show. If you have, I would love to know if it's worth watching if you have read the books. Sometimes those adaptations can definitely go the wrong way. Sticking in the similar vein here of Murderbot, and I think of these two books or series together quite a bit, and that is the Bobbyverse. The first book is called We Are Legion. These actually just got some new hardcovers. I think I've seen them at Barnes & Noble now. I listened to this on audio, and I think the audio experience is absolutely fantastic. This is the perfect blend of like hard sci-fi and fun sci-fi. And I think those are two very different things because sci-fi that is too hard can be very dry. And I love some of that. Some of my favorite stuff is that really hard, dry sci-fi stuff, but it's not necessarily the most fun sci-fi. And I think this series, Bobbyverse in general, does a great job of blending all of those elements together. If you're not familiar with this series, basically somebody's brain gets put into a spacefaring satellite and shot out into outer space, and all kinds of antics continue on from there. There's playing with time and what does it mean to be a person, but there is this kind of fun, joyous thing as you get to explore the galaxy. If you're somebody like me who wishes you could kind of be Bob in this series, it's a whole lot of fun. And once again, one of those things where there are deeper moments. There are some, substantial things that happen in the series, but for the most part, it's just like a really good time. And I'm actually going to also point towards, I guess you would count this as sci-fi as well, but this is a nonfiction. It's called What If? And this is basically somebody goes through and they have all kinds of fun. I think this is also a YouTube channel now. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a couple books, and they go through all of these crazy sci-fi questions where, like, the one that I always think of is like, what if a needle hit the earth at the speed of light? Or they take these actual conceptual ideas that you could have and make them as ridiculous as possible. I think all of these are in a very similar vein. If you like one, you'll probably like the other. And it's just a whole lot of fun, makes you happy. And you kind of learn a little bit with that because it is a nonfiction. As we move into one that is even more out of this world, even though it takes place on our world. This is from my favorite author, and that is Session Liu's. This is The Cretaceous Past. It depends on where you get it. This is actually an edition I got in Ireland. So it's of ants and dinosaurs. If you're in the United States, it goes by The Cretaceous Past. And this is one of those ones where it takes an idea and just expands it to a point of hilarity, but does it in a way that it's taken serious. And I think that's a fun note in this book. This is maybe a little bit of a hard one to recommend, but the conceptual idea here is that there has been intelligent life on Earth before, and the author plays with the idea of what if ants and dinosaurs were both sentient creatures that could build a society together. So you go from actual ants and dinosaurs, and you get, I don't want to spoil it, but they build up a society. And I think it's a really fun, interesting way to examine something. It doesn't overstay its welcome. If this were just a little bit longer, you would maybe get tired of it. But I think it's such a fun, interesting idea that gets explored. You can probably see a lot of the similarities on things that make me happy when I read. But this is an absolute, it's a great time. It's a hard one to recommend, but it is really fun if you are into this kind of exploring ideas and pushing the boundaries of like what you can think of as realistic. Also, in an even more crazy vein, I have the Last Horizon series. This was by Will White. Will White, most known for the Cradle series, and this takes fantasy and sci-fi, smashes them together in a brilliant way. I think if you look at the cover for the first one, he has a like a ray gun and a wand. We follow Varric Valinor, who is a seventh-fold mage wizard, but also, you know, we have all these sci-fi elements. Like the Last Horizon is a spaceship in the series. So once again, it takes these two crazy ideas, blends them together in a really fun, charismatic way. I think that is one thing that the series does well. And this is also one of those series where you don't have to wait for your characters to be powered up. They are already at 10. So if that is something that you are interested in, definitely check that one out. And then the last one in my kind of sci-fi category here is going to be Project Hail Mary. I think if you have never listened to an audiobook, this is a must-listen audiobook. I think that if you read this in the text format, you would have a great time. But with the movie coming out, I really do think the audio experience is going to be the best way to do it. I can't really go into it because it's a huge spoiler, but just know the way a certain element of this book is handled in the audiobook really elevates the experience in a lot of different ways. Next up, and this is a series that I don't really recommend to a whole lot of people, but that is going to be the James Bond books. I had such a good time reading these. They are a product of the time they were written and everything, so that there are definitely some things that you should know going into those books. But this is a series that I just talk about, that it has this charm, this character to the book itself. And I don't mean like the actual characters, but there's just something about the bravado, the story, the characters, and how it all just blends together into just, you know, this fanciful tale of this spy. And I think it just does it in such a way that, I don't know, I enjoyed it. And I will say, I think some of this probably comes from, I watched the movies when I was a kid, and, you know, who didn't play GoldenEye back in the day and like kind of fall in love with James Bond in that way. And then going back and reading the James Bond books later on, all 14 of Ian Fleming's James Bond book I read like 2 years ago, it just, you know, really brought a sense of the character to me that I had not seen before. And then the last two I'm going to mention are two fantasy books that could probably not be more different from each other. The first one being The Hobbit. The Hobbit, you know, is probably my favorite of the Lord of the Rings, which is maybe a hot take. The Hobbit is the one that I enjoyed the most. There's just something about the Shire and all of this stuff that happened. I know that's in the trilogy as well, but The Hobbit itself, I don't know, how can you just not enjoy The Hobbit, right? Especially as a fantasy fan. And on the other side of the spectrum, something you would probably never expect is Fourth Wing. I cannot believe how much fun I had with Fourth Wing. I'm sure some of that was because I read it with my fiance and we read it together. We had, you know, this fun experience, but it's just one of those books that I can't shake it. No matter how bad it actually was, it was also good. And I think part of it is it brings me back to some nostalgia of some of the things I read when I was a lot younger, namely Twilight. Like the Twilight, I say it all the time, the Twilight, the Fourth Wing pipeline. If the last like real thing you read was Twilight, then you picked up Fourth Wing, it just makes so much sense. But that is a list of books. I'm sure there's so many other books that just make me happy that, you know, I could probably keep going, but I don't want to go on too long. I would love to hear maybe some of the books that make you the most happy. Is it like a seasonal read? Is it something that, you know, even if the content is really dark, but just something that makes you happy when you read? I would love to hear it down below in the comments or the Discord that is linked in the description down below. But that's all for me. And remember to read what you want when you want.